Hello, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Two Stewards Show. My name's Mark, and I'm here with the lovely Brent.
The lovely Brent. Thanks, Mark. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome, Brent.
Despite my lack of a lovely beard.
Yeah, well, everyone needs a compliment once in a while. You got a lovely head of hair.
Oh,
you
thanks.
know, you make up for it in other ways. Not everybody can have a lush beard. Today, we wanted to do something a little more practical, and as usual, I'll be doing most of the talking. But we're going to...
I'll be doing most of the laughing and other kind of random comments.
Poking fun at me.
Yeah.
But we're just going to get into a few practical tools around short-term rentals. I'm often speaking with people about short-term rentals, and especially people just getting started, and they have a lot of questions.
Mark, okay, let me jump in here because Mark just wants to sound like a know-it-all.
Well.
Mark's always talking to people. I know that. And then he comes on here and just talks to more people. But yeah, you do get a lot of questions in your line of work, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, but short-term, mid-term rentals.
Yeah.
Yeah, primarily. So
Is this a trick question?
Yeah, because if people haven't listened to previous episodes, Mark and his wife actually wrote a book on this, You, Me, and Airbnb. So he is kind of like the foremost expert in this room on this topic.
Just in this room, though.
Yeah. We do have Chat GPT pulled up, so maybe we'll do an episode on that later. But Chat GPT is quite an expert on it as well. So
That's true. Yeah, so maybe I'm like the second best in this room after Chat GPT.
So hopefully some people will get something out of what we're about to lay down for everybody on how to get started with Airbnb. Is that a good topic to kind of kick this off, Mark?
Yeah, I guess so. Some specific tools, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into like setting up your listing.
Well, because we did a high-end talk about Airbnb and some of the things to consider before you actually buy a property, right? And we talked at length about where to look and how and what kind of criteria and some of the tenant screening things to consider. But for people who are just literally getting started, have never done this before, there's probably a lot of common mistakes people make and that you could help people avoid.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So we manage a number of properties. And so people will think, well, if you're doing it professionally and you've got a bunch of properties on the go, then you're going to use tools that I don't need to use. But and to some extent that's true, but there are a lot of tools that everybody should be using.
Yeah.
That yes, you'll have to subscribe and pay for. But if you're paying, let's say it's $15 or $20 a month per listing, right? If you got a bunch of listing, that adds up, but that's part of the cost of doing business. But even with one listing, it's worth it to pay $15, $20 a month for some of these services.
But that's the cost of doing business, but I don't run a business, Mark, or I do, but not in this Airbnb world. Or let's say I'm a customer talking or a listener talking, and I'm saying, hey, Mark, I don't run a business doing Airbnb. I just want to Airbnb my basement or my house when I'm away, or maybe they do want to buy a rental property and do this. Yeah,
it's still a business.
Still good. Yeah.
If you're selling a good or a service for money, that's, you're running a business.
You should treat it like a business.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and how to sort of look at your financial life anyways from that ledger perspective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've got like your profit and loss statement. So even if you're working a job and you don't have anything else going on, you still should do that, right? And I think this is just an extension of that, right? If you're going to rent out your basement, that's how we get started with short-term rentals.
It's another stream of income for you.
Absolutely. And you should...
It's another stream of laundry.
It's a big stream of laundry. No, but you have to...
and Mark's going to tell us how to avoid that big stream of laundry.
Yeah. Okay, here's your first tip. Just get a cleaner.
Okay.
That was a simple lesson that we eventually learned.
Okay.
Once running one unit, not too bad. We had 3 units going that were our personal units, and just too much. And I finally convinced my wife to get some help.
Yeah.
And also get a cleaner. Hey-o! No, get some more help in the form of cleaners.
Yeah.
And okay, maybe that's the first thing we'll mention. So this isn't a specific tool, although there is a tool that we use that you can, I got to add that to the list here.
So this is a multifaceted comment that you're making. It's not
As they
tool,
all
but
are, Brent.
Okay.
They're all multifaceted and multi-layered.
And tangential.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
What were we talking about?
I forget.
Cleaning.
But cleaning. So if you have one unit, you can do it yourself. If you're looking at it more as a business, I mean, and you kind of run the numbers and be like, here's how much I can charge. Here's what my occupancy is going to be. How much can I make? Is it worth having a cleaner? So there's two ways to look at the cleaning fee, and some people don't charge a cleaning fee.
You mean the cleaning fee that you can set on Airbnb? Like if you go on the website, you can say, my price is this, I'm going to charge a cleaning fee.
Yes. And, you can do that whether you're using Airbnb, Booking.com, VRBO. Those are sort of the three big ones, or even just doing direct bookings. You can also charge a cleaning fee, and you should always charge a cleaning fee because you have to clean. You have to, at the least, do laundry.
Yeah.
And we'll have people say like, hey, if we clean, could you knock off the cleaning fee? And I'm like, it's not about like spraying down the countertops and all that stuff. Like, that's part of it. Yeah. But the biggest thing is laundry.
Yeah.
And I want somebody in there to go look at the laundry first to make sure it's not stained.
Just look at it.
Just sit there and look at it. No, but one of our instructions for guests will be, do not strip the beds. Like, you think you're helping us, but just leave the beds alone. Because that way, if there's a stain, the cleaner will come in and have a look at it visually first before they take the sheets off and see if there's any stains. Because then you got to treat them and or put new linens on. You got to deal with it, right?
Do you charge that to the guest?
Not unless it's ridiculous, right?
Okay. This is a ridiculous stain. We have to charge the guest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like if we can't get it out, or it's going to take a lot of time to get it out. Your cleaners
come in and they have like a ridiculous meter.
Yep.
If it's like 10 out of 10 ridiculous.
Yeah, once you get above 7 out of 10 on the ridiculous meter, then
is there an app for that?
we're working on it.
Okay. We got to get down to business here, Mark.
This is business, the ridiculous meter. You can have fun while doing business, But anyways, so cleaning. So laundry is the biggest thing, right?
What about dishes?
Whatever. We'll ask people to do their dishes.
But it's not a big ordeal.
If they don't do them, like, whatever, right? Some people get pretty upset. And especially if it's like a unit in your house, or maybe it was your house and you moved and you still have sentimental attached. Like, this is another thing about having a business, right? It's business.
Yeah.
Don't be personally offended by what people do. Do you think a hotel owner gets upset when somebody trashes a hotel? Well, maybe they'll get upset. But if somebody leaves a hotel room messy or something, the cleaner will come to them and be like, hey, this is really messy. Or they stole a bathrobe, like, whatever, it's business. We charge them for it, we move on. Yeah. Because we got more guests coming, and you can't have that much emotional baggage for every guest that does something. Because every guest will do something. Yeah. So it's business, and you need to work the cost of new linens every 6 to 12 months, replacing glasses here and there, stuff like that, right? You need to work that into your cost. And that's why, approach it as a business.
The cleaning fee is how you incorporate that in, or just the cleaning service?
No, the cleaning is generally...
So you build the replacement cost for these items.
That's in your nightly fee.
Okay.
Yeah. The cleaning fee is just for someone to come in and clean the place and like do the laundry and the rest of the cleaning. And also kind of alert you to, if you're not in there every day, alert you to what's going on with the unit. Yeah. Right? They're your eyes and ears if you're not doing the cleaning. So again, two ways to approach it, right? If you have just one unit, and let's say it's in your basement, you should still charge the cleaning fee, right? For a time, we didn't do that because it's like, well, I'm here anyways, and we're getting money from this, so it's like, no, you especially again back to the laundry, that takes time. Yeah. If nothing else, even if you're just standing there and everything else is clean, right? You got to load in.
You got to wait
in the washer. Maybe you got 2 loads, depending on the size of the place. But you got to load, you got to wash it, and you're doing the cleaning in between, right? The other cleaning.
Yeah.
But then you got to throw it in the dryer, and like sometimes you're waiting. But that's...
So is there any efficiency to, I know we want to talk about tools and all these different things. So, but just first, so is there any efficiency to having a second set of everything, bringing this stuff home? That way you're only at the property.
So not once you scale up a little bit, right?
Right.
So we do have 2 or 3 sets of linen at every place, and we try to make it all the same if possible. Like we're still working through standardizing that, but ideally you can have some spare linen. You can just buy them in bulk, right? Buy like 10 sets of linens.
Yeah.
And if you have, if you can standardize the bed size at your units, even better. So you just be like, they're all queen beds.
Yeah.
I've got all queen linen, because like looking at like
a
single or double versus queen, like
single just doesn't fit on the queen.
No, but by the time you realize that, you're like, you've got it all unpacked. You're like, what is wrong? And I've done that before where I'm like, honey, I don't know how you get these sheets on. I just can't. She's like, it's a single, or it's a double, you dummy. Doesn't fit on a queen. I'm like, oh. Okay. So I don't do a lot of the cleaning. But anyways, standardize if you can with the types of sheets so that you can just change them between units if you need to in a pinch.
But for somebody
two
just
or
doing
3 sets.
One Airbnb unit, or maybe one house with 2 units or something.
So the process
they still
is,
need 6 sets of linens or 10 sets if they have 2 beds in each unit, kind of thing.
Yeah, 2 or 3 sets per bed.
Right.
Is what I'm saying. Right. And so again, that's another cost. It's a business.
Yeah.
You got to go in and plan this out. So there's some initial upfront capital outlay, and you can't, please, if you're listening, do not buy microfiber. Yeah, it's cheap. It's going to pill immediately on you. You get the little pills on it, and they're like crusty and hard to sleep on. Just get some nice cotton sheets, 300 thread count.
This is detailed advice.
Yeah, well, we're giving some granular advice here. Every once in a while, we got to tell people something useful, I think, instead of just theorizing about fiat money and debasement.
Thomas Malthus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As much as
Are
I
your
love
kids
Malthus.
still in the debasement?
They do spend a lot of time in debasement, They actually asked, how is money made the other day?
Yeah.
And I launched into a big tirade about
why you should listen to
fiat
the
economics and, quantitative easing and all this stuff. And they're just like, no, how do they actually make the coins? I'm like, we'll go to the mint in Winnipeg one day, kids. Sorry. My poor children. But back to the cleaning. So thread count.
Yeah.
Right. Apparently, once you get above 400 count, it's just nonsense.
Right.
So
it's
you stick to 200-300.
Kind of.
Yeah, it's just nonsense. So you stick to a decent thread count, and you can get them at Walmart. You can get them at Costco.
Yeah.
Right. You can also order them online.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, you're going to be replacing those sheets. Don't get too attached to them. Right. If you can get a year out of them, awesome. Sometimes it's less. So you don't want to buy the most expensive thing unless you have a very luxe listing.
Yeah.
So ideally workflow is cleaner comes in, looks at every bed, identifies any stains or whatever, strips all the beds, all the bedding, gets either stain treatment started or throws them in the washer. Then they get the second set of linens, and maybe they may do some other cleaning, but then you don't wait for that set of linens to be clean. You get the secondary set and you put it on the bed. So you make the beds are done while the laundry's still going.
Yeah.
And then that laundry gets folded up and put into the closet.
Right.
Wherever you keep your spare linens. Several sets of linens.
And there's no way to speed that up.
People try different things, right? So if you have 100 units, some of those folks will have their own laundromat.
Right.
I've listened to a fellow that did that, and that works well for them. And they have a pretty big cleaning team and stuff. So they will just do deliveries of laundry to places. This one's getting turned over. We're going to send a king set, a queen, and 3 queen sets to that house. Right. So when the cleaners get there, they got it. And then they will deliver all the dirty laundry to a central depot. Yeah. And that cuts down on the laundry.
What do hotels do?
Well, they have laundry services on site, right?
So but they bring it off site to clean? Or they
Well, it depends on the size, but usually they'll do it on site.
On site.
There are, like, you can get services to pick up.
I never thought about this stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Some hotels will off-site it.
yeah.
Right. So they'll just have
The
like
really cheap ones
a
don't
bundle
wash
of,
them.
yeah, they just turn them over. So yeah, people will offsite them, but you really need economies of scale to do that. It doesn't,
It's like
it's expensive.
It's like the saying, save toilet paper, use both sides. Oh, man.
Usually I'm the one who gets us off track.
This episode is going sideways already. Do you want to talk about cleaning the whole time?
No, but I just want to
tools.
get through this if you can focus.
Yeah, all right, I'll focus.
But again, if you're doing like a single unit, you're not going to get a laundry service. We've looked into that too, right? But it's expensive.
Yeah.
And they price it by the pound. So we won't get into that. But just getting back to the theory of cleaning and having a cleaning fee, you need a cleaning fee because your time's valuable, whatever you do, right? And Kirsten was like, well, I'm a stay-at-home mom, like whatever. I'm like, your time is still valuable. You could be doing other stuff.
Yeah.
And whether you take the cleaning fee personally, and that just goes into your revenue stream, like that's awesome. If you want to do the cleaning and you have the time, then do that.
Yeah.
And that's extra income. And then if you don't,
It's also extra work.
yeah, it's extra work, but you're getting compensated
you're getting
for
paid,
it.
Yeah.
And then, if you can't do it for some reason, you got to pay somebody else. You've already got that structure set up and it's $50 or $100 or whatever, that is going to cover the cost of the cleaning. So you're not going to be out that money if you have to call somebody in to clean for you.
That's what kind of jumps in my head if I'm going to start an Airbnb. And we tried it for a bit, but I had to move back into the house because we lived there. So, but for people who they think, oh, I'm just going to get started. I'll try this out. I'll do the cleaning. I'll charge a cleaning fee, but I'll do the work. But then you're kind of tied to the work and like if you have a booking and you want to go on holidays with your family or something,
exactly.
Then you all of a sudden scrambling because you don't have a system in place to kind of manage the cleaning while you're gone, or what if this happens? What if that happens?
Yeah.
And then it becomes, well, you're on vacation with your family, thankfully, but you're texting the cleaner back and forth 100 times because they don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas if you had somebody set up already and you walk them through it, because you got to walk them through at least the first time, generally speaking, right? Like here's all the quirks of this place, and here's what to look out for. This ceiling fan gets more dusty, like whatever, right?
Yeah.
You got to build that up. So if you can do that, then you can have a little bit of confidence that your cleaner is going to be able to take care of the cleaning and also look out for other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're missing, normally you have 8 glasses in this cupboard. There's only 7.
Yeah.
Right. So, or missing other stuff.
Yeah.
Right. A good cleaner is actually not a cleaner. They're a turnover specialist. I think I mentioned that before.
No, you didn't.
Oh, okay. Maybe that was
maybe you did, and I wasn't paying attention.
No, it could have been a training. But yeah, they're not cleaners. They're turnover specialists, right? Because for short-term rentals, it is an art.
Yeah.
You can't just get a normal residential house cleaner to come in and clean.
Yeah.
Right. The whole place has to be cleaned perfectly every time.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have somebody cleaning your house, for example, they'll be like, once a month, I'm going to dust this area.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas this time, like, there can't be dust anywhere. There can't be like a single hair on any pillowcase, all that kind of stuff. Right. And then they also have to know, like, hey, we're running low on hand soap, garbage bags, whatever. Right.
Yeah.
So we use an app called Turno, Turno.
Take notes, people. What is this called? Turno.
Turno. It used to be Turnover B&B.
Yeah.
And because we have, I don't know how many cleaners we have, but a dozen or more that will do different properties.
Yeah.
So this ties into our property management software, which I'll get into as well after as a tool that you should be using. But basically, it's all automated. So when we get a booking, I've set up a primary cleaner for each property, or my wife has, and also a list of secondary cleaners.
Right.
You never want to just rely on one person because
it could fail.
Well, you don't want a single point of failure anywhere in your system.
The first person came in and just looked at the laundry and was like, I'm out of here.
No, but even if you have good cleaners, like they get sick.
Yeah.
They hopefully don't forget. But they'll go on holidays, whatever it is, right? So usually have a primary, and then secondary or a couple secondaries. So the way this app works is as soon as there's a booking, it's all integrated with your software. They get a message saying, hey, there's a booking for September 10th. Would you like to do it?
Yeah.
And you have all your pricing and everything set out beforehand with them. So that like you don't have to talk about that every time, right? So for the majority of our cleanings, we don't actually communicate with our cleaners anymore, other than like if there's an issue. And we'll keep an eye on it, right? If nobody accepts the cleaning. So let's say the primary person gets the notification, they either accept or decline.
Yeah.
And if they accept, great. It goes into their calendar. They get reminders. We get a reminder. And then they do the cleaning. If they decline, it goes to the pool of secondary cleaners.
Yeah.
And then for them, it's first come, first serve. So it might be 3 people get a notification or an email. Hey, there's a cleaning available. Do you want it? Whoever takes it first gets it. Yeah. And they all understand that.
And
so
they fight each other over it, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, they don't know who the other.
Right.
They don't see the other names, right?
See, that's funny. I had that with my physiotherapist. He's in high demand. So you go on his booking thing. It's like you're booking into like 3 months from now.
Right.
Like, well, I got an issue now.
Yeah.
But then you sign up on the waiting list and the thing comes up, right? And you got to fight everyone else.
Oh, yeah. You got to be like watching and
so
ready.
Like 20 minutes later, I'll check my phone. You got the thing and you're like, already taken. It's always a race. But
yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of like that. So yeah, again, for the majority of our cleanings, we're not spending time now calling the cleaner and saying like, hey, can you go to this place, and you write it down in your notebook, and so managing a bunch of properties, that like it's an absolute must.
Yeah.
Right? We have to do it. If you have one property, do you need that? Maybe not.
Is this software free or like a?
Well, it is a paid thing, but we
Yeah.
get it free with our property management software.
Oh, okay.
Which is one of the reasons I switched to that software, which I'll get into after. But I mean, especially if you had that, so we use Hospitable as the PMS, property management software. If you had that, like, why not take advantage of the free app and have your cleaner on the app as well? Because then it's still, even if you're doing, let's say, 2 or 3 bookings a week, that's still 2 or 3 whole sets of communication you need to have with that person. Like, oh, can you, here's another one, here's another one. Just automate it. Like, make your life easier. Why fight it?
Man, you're so smart.
Not smart. I only know this because we're dumb and we did it all the wrong ways. So we eventually are like, oh, this is better.
Okay. Just looking, turno.com, there is a free option if you have one property, and so maybe there is a way to do it if you don't have property management software and just want to manage the cleaner, but you just have your basement and you're renting it out. And definitely look into it.
So you should still, so we'll talk about this, the first tool. I think everybody should invest in property management software.
Okay.
Even if you're a very organized person, whatever. So one of the reasons is you should never just be listed on just Airbnb, for example, right? You want to do Airbnb, depending on your area, right? Booking.com, VRBO. So in Hamilton and urban markets especially, VRBO is not like, we don't use it because it's specifically geared towards vacation rentals. So vacation rental by owner is the long form of the acronym, VRBO.
Yeah.
So if you have a vacation, like a cottage somewhere, absolutely VRBO. And you can use different tools to see the penetration of Airbnb versus Booking.com versus VRBO in certain markets. So if you were to look at the Hamilton market, you would see like Vrbo has maybe a 2% market share or something. Right. And that's just something we've learned over time. Like you never get any requests through Vrbo. In Hamilton. Right? Booking.com, Airbnb, absolutely. Yeah. So those are the ones that you want to use. And so there's a lot of different smaller sites out there.
So you're saying the property management software is going to be helpful in getting your listing up, not just on Airbnb, but on all these other platforms, and then managing them.
Well, you've got to put the listings up. So if you're doing it, I always recommend start with Airbnb.
Yeah.
It's the biggest one. And from Airbnb, you can sort of import that listing into other platforms. So Booking.com, for example.
Yeah.
You go on there, and then there's an option to import your Airbnb listing. You can't do it backwards from booking to Airbnb, as far as I know. So start always with Airbnb, because then you're not building listings like 2, 3, 4 times, right?
Yeah.
And same with Vrbo, you import it into there. And same with a lot of other platforms that actually. We use Sinistar, which is an insurance stay platform.
Yeah.
And again, you just import it from there and then tweak it. Yeah, it's actually like, you list your Airbnb listing, so like put the link in, and then it pulls everything from there.
Right.
And then you can optimize it or tweak it a little bit from there. But the advantage of using property management software, and especially Hospitable, which I like, and there's probably 10 or 12 PMSs out there that are really good. So we're using one, and we're not, because there's a lot of work to switch between them, we're not going to like bounce back and forth. We used one for a while. It was pretty good. And then I found there's some things about Hospitable that I really liked, and the free Turno app was one of them. So we made the switch, and a few other things weren't working for us on the other platform. But one thing Hospitable is really good at is unifying guest messaging. So what I do is I set up templates, and maybe I can...
you can pull it up on the screen or no?
Yeah, maybe I'll pull it up for a second here. But there's a lot of messaging with guests, right? And especially with multiple properties, like you have tons and tons of messages going out. But even with one unit,
if you're doing short-term stays, with
frequent, doing shorter guests. Stays. If you're only doing midterm, not as important, I guess. But let me just pull this up for a second here.
All right. So if you're watching on the screen, Mark is pulling up his property management software.
So here we go. So this is hospitable.com, and I've just got this section blurred, so you can't see the guest names.
So you pull it up and then you blur it out. Very useful.
Yeah. No, but you can see, so here we've got pending messages.
Yeah.
And then up top, you can barely make that out, 16 active messaging rules. So what that is we have a series of messages that go out and are just automated.
Yeah.
And they will go out to all the different platforms, whether it's Airbnb or Booking.com.
So you don't have to actually log into Airbnb and then message somebody and then log out and log back into Booking.com and message those people.
Exactly. So yeah, you can see the benefit already, even with just one apartment,
even
right?
one unit listed. You got all these different platforms.
Yeah, and it may only be 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But it's useful. So we'll have, like, for example, a message if somebody just is inquiring.
Yeah.
They get an automated message back with some information and certain things that they would want to know, right? If it's an instant book, then they're not inquiring. They book it, and then we're like, hey, thanks for booking. Here's some information. We'll be in touch closer to the booking date with more information, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll get something pre-check-in, like just a reminder.
It's all taking care of your guests, right? Like
yeah.
The minute they make contact with your listing or your company, or I guess if it's a person just renting their basement, like whatever, it's all managed through kind of prefabricated messages.
Yeah, and most people don't realize it either, right?
Yeah.
And so every once in a while, you got to pay attention.
Unless it's like 4 a.m. and the guy's like, oh, Mark just messaged me back right away with some...
yeah. So you can set it not to send messages between certain times.
Whatever hours, okay.
So that even makes it more...
Realistic,
right? Yeah. But you can also just message immediately. And like we've never once have we had anybody say like, is this an automated message?
Yeah.
Usually there's like, oh, thank you so much for the quick response or whatever. But yeah, so 16 messaging rules. These are just automated messages that go out according to various parameters. So again, the day of check-in with the instructions, the day after with like, hey, how's everything?
Yeah.
Maybe if with a longer stay, you can have a midpoint check-in, then the day before check-out, like, hey, just a reminder, check-out's tomorrow, here's what you do. The day of check-out, the day after, like, hey, thanks for staying, please don't forget to leave us a good review. And then maybe later, if they haven't left a review, another one saying, please leave a review.
Remember your 5-star experience.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you you tailor them, and then there's also, we have messages for each property. So like your check-in instructions are going to be different for every property.
Yeah.
Right. So there's general ones that apply to every property. And like, it's super easy because you just insert, like it will figure out which property to message. So if an inquiry comes in, it knows it's for property number 1.
Yeah.
So in your messaging, you can have the same message for every property, but hey, thanks for inquiring about insert property name here, and the software picks out the correct property name.
Yeah. Okay.
So super handy. So there's a couple advantages. For multiple listings, it takes the load off. And then every once in a while, you've got to respond to like specific requests. But even a lot of those, like what's the Wi-Fi password is the most common one. So you can set up a sort of an AI thing where it picks up the word Wi-Fi and sort of the general message, and then it will just auto respond with the Wi-Fi for that place.
Yeah.
Right? Because people don't read, and it's in their check-in instructions. It's in the listing information. It's on a piece of paper when they open the door. Like 25% of people still, what's the Wi-Fi? Yeah. So like whatever. But again, part of having a business, right? Like, don't be upset. It might be the 50th person in a row who's asked for Wi-Fi info, but they don't know that.
Yeah, it's their first time at your unit.
Yeah, and whatever. They're traveling, they're busy, they get the dog barking, the kids yelling.
Yeah.
Right, and then sometimes people are like, oh, I'm so dumb, I just saw it right there on the table, but thank you. And they're more appreciative, too, if you're not snarky and be like, did you not see it anywhere?
Yeah.
Right? They're appreciative of that. So the first benefit of the automated messaging, through your property management software, is that it's a good guest experience, right?
Yeah.
And it frees up your time, so you're not as busy or as harried, especially with multiple properties, but even with one. The second one is that you get a good response time score with the platform that you're using. So Airbnb especially, they measure this. How long does it take the host to get back to you? And they actually have average response times right on your listings. So that if somebody's looking at your listing, they can look at it and see how long does it normally take Mark to answer a question.
Yeah.
Right? And then you get scored on that in your metrics as well.
But if you automate it, you get a really good score.
Yeah. And, there's... that's legit. So we have very good scores for responsiveness because we're generally responding like instantly.
Yeah, with a bot.
Yeah, with the bot. But that's how the world works, man. The other thing, so that is one of the benefits of property management software is the unified messaging.
Yeah.
And then,
You said so unified messaging. You also said integrating with the cleaning kind of scheduling stuff as well.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring up the calendar real quick. So this is the other thing. It will integrate calendars. And so you can do that just using Airbnb and Booking.com, for example.
Yeah, I suspect most people are not watching this, but maybe you can describe.
Yeah, I'm just blurring a few things here before I bring it up. So, with the calendar, you can integrate Airbnb and Booking.com, for example, just without using property management, so that you don't get double bookings. Right? That's like the worst thing that can happen to you is you get a double booking. So you can do it that way, and that's fine. But if you're using a property management software, if you're thinking about it, then, get that. So if you're watching, I've got it pulled up on the screen. So here's a bunch of listings. And then for us, it's super handy too. Like, how are we doing right now? Has demand just at a glance, right? And you kind of look at the listings, and then you see if there's any gaps, like, oh, I need to do something about this.
So rather than
gap.
going on Airbnb specifically and looking at the calendar that's integrated into their software, you can look at everything.
And this will also tell me, like, I've got, here's an Airbnb booking, here's a Booking.com booking.
Right.
Whereas I go on the Airbnb calendar, it just shows that certain dates are blocked.
Right.
Right. And so with
how
this,
does that work if you have a listing on Airbnb and on booking.com and
Well,
somebody wants to book it? Like the calendar's linked?
yeah, it's just an iCal file that you you connect them to each other, and then they talk to each other.
Right.
So they're competitors, but like they realize that people are doing this, so you
Yeah.
might as well make it a little bit easy for them.
Yeah.
But again, you don't have visibility over like where
Right.
that booking is or why it's blocked off. So I can do custom bookings as well on my property management software. So if I have,
If someone called you up
yep.
and they want to stay, or you want to block it off for a certain
Yeah,
reason.
and if I want to track that, then I'll block it off and put their name in or whatever information,
I
right?
have to do repairs this week. I'm going to be in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then again, especially once you got a few listings going, it's super helpful to keep that organized. So we've got a bunch here that are we haven't put in the names for the direct bookings. But that's, where you see the bigger gaps, these are like midterm stays. And it's blocked off in the calendar. So yeah, I just have a good look at my pricing, at my overall calendar. But again, even with one unit, so you're going to pay a little bit of money. Actually, a lot of, like the Turno, a lot of PMSs will do like your first unit's free because they want to get you, that's the hook, right?
Yeah.
So if you do grow, then they want your business and they get to charge you more money. So just for keeping organized, right? The messaging, the unified calendar.
Yeah.
And then if there's other bonus things in the in that property management software, then like that's awesome as well.
Yeah, there's a lot more that goes into this behind the scenes than most people who just go to an Airbnb would think.
Yeah, absolutely.
You show up for a vacation at an Airbnb, little do you know, you've got a chat bot talking to you and a cleaning software. And
Well, and 10 years ago when we started, we didn't have any of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Some of this stuff was around, but it was in its infancy.
yeah, you were sending letters by mail. Tell the kids.
Yeah. It's really grown in popularity. So property management software is one thing I absolutely recommend. The next thing, if you're not using property management software, I really recommend it. But pricing software, I would say, is a must. Like you have to. You got to do it.
So we should talk about that first.
Well, we flow organically here, Brent. Right. Okay, so we use Price Labs. Wheelhouse is probably the other big one in the short-term rental space. They're just as good. Apparently, I haven't used them, but I've got, again, no reason to switch really, because we're happy with the pricing tools that we've been using. And so a lot of these tools will do different things as well. So some of them have different twists. So you got Price Labs and Wheelhouse, each do slightly different things. And a lot of them are kind of overlaid or overlapping. So you'll see some of that stuff in here. But I can just bring up my screen here for Price Labs, for example. And
so this is software that's going to tell you suggest what price to set your unit.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So most people will start and they'll just be like, okay, I'm going to charge $100 a night.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then, you get bookings, you don't get bookings, you don't really know why. And then you've got to kind of adjust your pricing. And this is how we started, right? You adjust your pricing a little bit higher if you're busy, a little bit lower if you're not, right? Till you find that good kind of mix, and then you leave it.
Yeah.
Well, you're like you're leaving money on the table for sure, right? Some people will be like, hey, I'm going to be smart and I'm going to charge more on the weekends.
Yeah.
Okay, yep. So that's like a dynamic pricing model now, right? It's not static. You're charging X on the weekdays, X on weekends, because there's more demand on the weekends. Perfect. So what a pricing software will do is take that thought and multiply it by 1,000, right? So it will look at all the different things that you could that could possibly influence pricing, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe you're smart and you realize I need different pricing for winter and different pricing for summer.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So I'm going to do a separate profile for that, right? And then you got to remember to change it every season.
There's so many variables that go into this.
So many variables. So seasonality is one of them.
Yeah, you were talking about like events even in your region?
Yeah, so you might know that, there's a Taylor Swift concert coming up. Let me put my prices up, right?
Or down.
Or
oh, sorry, Taylor.
It's a popular, I would say up. It's pretty popular. You don't have to like it. You just got to profit from it, right? But you may not know that there's a monster truck show the next weekend and it's going to get X amount of people. So the pricing software will track all this stuff for your city, for your neighborhood, right? It gets pretty granular, and there's just so many things that it will, so many data points that it integrates. So it's more than a person could do for one listing, definitely more than a person could do for 10 or 20 listings.
Yeah.
Right? It takes all that information, like, what is the most popular, is there an airport at that city?
Yeah.
What's the most popular day for flights coming in and out? Does that change? Yeah. Well, so hotels have been doing this forever, actually, right? They have, generally a hotel will have someone who's in charge of pricing, right? And like, that's just their job. They look up what's going on, and like a lot of it's automated now, but especially previously, they would have to know what was going on in that city, and they would adjust their pricing accordingly, right? If you look at a hotel, the price is never the same from day to day. And sometimes even intraday it changes. Yeah. Right. So eventually, as short-term rental, people are like, "Hey, maybe there's something to that, and we should use that." So now we have these.
So you're saying pricing software is a must. So that sounds. And is that integrated with the property management software too, or that's something different?
No. So I don't know of any PMS that does also the pricing.
Okay.
A lot of them will look at your pricing or analyze it, but doesn't actually do the pricing for you.
Right.
And like, there's a few, like I said, Price Labs and Wheelhouse that are established. They do it well. So just go, like, pick a winner, right? Go with one that actually does it well. But it will integrate with your property management software. So let me just pull this up. I'm not going to get too granular here, but we can, you see all these listings. You got the name. You can review the prices, bedroom count, city, and then at the least you're going to set your minimum price, your base price, and your maximum price. And so the minimum price is like, that is the absolute lowest I would want to charge for this unit. And then, here's the base price.
And you set that, or it live?
You set that.
Yeah, okay.
You can also let it, let the AI, because everybody uses AI now, pick those prices for you. But you're better to, if well, and you may have, like, one property to another may vary, like your mortgage payment and your interest rate and all that stuff. So you may have just a minimum number that you don't want to go below. So you set your minimum, your base, and your maximum. And your maximum is actually important too, because you don't want, like, it may get booked, but you may have people disappointed, right? At a certain point, the value, you may exceed your actual value for the house. And then you're going to get a bad review. Is not making a couple $100 extra bucks is not worth a bad review. Yeah. Right. So you got to set it to where people will pay it, and like a extreme surge pricing event. So you'll see one here. I've capped it out at $999, and there's specific reasons for that property. 5-bedroom. Why I wouldn't go above that, because people at that point wouldn't be happy. They'd be expecting probably something else, right? And it's the same for other properties, right? There's 3-bedroom Niagara Falls. I'm not going to charge more than $500 a night, and my base price is $225. So we can click on that and review the pricing, but it gets really granular if you want. Right, so you could just set your minimum, base, and maximum and leave it, and then it will, using all the data points that we talked about and the neighborhood information, and so you'll see, we can, do I have it up? I got it up there. So you got your calendar, you've got your neighborhood data, so it's comparing comparable neighborhood listings, and then you've got hotel data as well. So to look at hotels in the area, what are they charging, and we're going to adjust based on that. So you have to have a fair amount of trust in
in the software.
In the
what it's gonna do,
software.
yeah.
But once you've used it for a while, you develop that trust.
Yeah.
Right? You can ask it to help you choose a base price if you just really have no clue. You can do overrides if you want for a specific date. If you know there's something like there's a baseball tournament coming up in Hamilton in a couple weekends, and the pricing software didn't pick up on that because it's like an amateur thing. But we've had, I don't know, between 6 and 10 inquiries for places just where you're like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah.
Right. So this is not like a Taylor Swift concert where you're going to double your prices, but like, oh, maybe I want to bump everything up a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can do all kinds of customizations, and I don't have a ton on this one here, but last minute prices, so you can have them go up or down. Well, and actually it does that anyways, but you can customize how it does that. Orphan day prices, again, I've set at the default, but that's when you've got a day or two in between bookings. So you may say, I only want to do 3-day bookings. That's the minimum thing I'll do. But then let's say you got a 3-day booking, a 2-day gap, and a 3-day booking. This will give you the option to allow just that one time to book someone to book 2 days.
Right.
So that you fill in that orphan gap.
Yeah.
You got minimum stay. So, here we've got on a weekday, I want a minimum of 2 nights, on a weekend, 2 nights. If we go a little further out, and let me
Those poor orphans, man.
I know, I feel bad. That's why I want to.
That's why I want to use pricing software to fill those gaps.
Fill those gaps. So,
okay, but what else? So we've got cleaning. You got Turno.com. You got pricing software. This is.
Have you had enough of the pricing software? Is that your?
Well, I'm just saying it's really good, but like for people who aren't getting this granular, okay, we're taking all the boxes here, and how that people can stop flailing about when they're starting their Airbnb.
Yes, walking in darkness. So, okay, I won't beat it to death, but the pricing software, you can get as granular as you want, or you can just,
leave it
do
as
a basic,
high level.
Yeah, do a basic minimum, base, maximum, and then let it sort it out. But you will find, like you'll never be able to. Here, let me just pull up one more time. Right, you look at the pricing here. Right, so we've got $94, and here's if I hover over it, it gives you
have to explain this because people can't see it.
Oh, right. Sorry. I assume people are watching, but nobody watches. So I've got my calendar here. And if I click on a day, it's going to bring up a whole bunch of factors. Like
reasons why it picked that price.
Why? Yes. For this reason, the seasonality thing, we're bumping it up 17%. The demand factor is a little bit higher, so we're bumping it up 2%. The pacing factor, we're down 5%. A whole bunch of factors, right, where it's going to adjust the price. So you see, just in this 1 week, every day is a different price. $94 Sunday, $92, $93, $102, $113, $129, $140.
So if somebody's booking this, they're paying a different price every night.
Yeah.
But they're just seeing like the total price for the whole stay.
Yeah.
They're not. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then if they were to pick a different week or something, they would get yet again a different price. But for example, $140 on this this particular Saturday, like I don't even know why it's that price. Maybe it's that baseball tournament, but it will pick up trends too, right? If there's a lot of people booking in Hamilton, out of the ordinary, quicker than usual, it's going to pick that up and bump your price up.
Right.
Which you can't track that kind of information yourself. So that is a very good reason to use pricing software. The conventional wisdom is if you don't, you're leaving probably 30% of revenue on the table.
Which is significant.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. And I know for us, it's huge. The other benefit that it has is that it looks to Airbnb like you're in your listing every day adjusting the pricing. So the way it works is you set your pricing on the pricing software, it pushes it to your PMS, that pushes it to Airbnb. Because a lot of property management software will allow you to set your prices as well, and then push it to Airbnb and Booking.com and VRBO.
Yeah.
And you can do like, I want to charge 10% more for Booking.com because their fees are higher or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You can make those adjustments. But needless to say, it satisfies the algorithm in Airbnb that we've talked about before, where it wants owner involvement. Well, now it looks like you're in your listing every day changing something.
Yeah.
When it's just the pricing software is doing that.
Yeah.
So, pricing is the most important thing you can do for your Airbnb. or for your short-term rental. The next thing.
How many hours is this podcast going to be? Mark?
Many. No, this will be the last major thing I touch on. So again, if you're running an Airbnb or a short-term rental,
hopefully you got something out of this.
But you'll get some actual usable tools. So pricing software, number one, property management software, number two,
and a cleaning,
potentially with a cleaning add-on.
Yeah.
And then ranking software is important, right? So Airbnb has some good analytics right on their in their site, and they're getting better because they know this is what people want. So you can use some of that stuff. It's under the Insights tab on your profile. Yeah. And it'll give you a lot of good information. And they've actually now integrated with a company called AirReview. So they've been around for a while, and they look at, so let me just pull this up on my ranking software, who also use AirReview. And I don't have a ton of data on this one. Let me just go back for a second, and we'll pick a different property. But anyways, AirReview does a whole bunch of different analytics for the performance of your property. So let me just, I'll just go to the main page here of RankBreeze, and we'll get back to the some of the analytics stuff. But basically, this is analytic software. So it tracks how your listings are doing. So we'll look at, here we're page 8, page 12, page 8, page 2, 14, 6, 3, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1.
So they should all be 1.
Not necessarily. So one of the things with doing midterm rentals is that it really kills your, or just longer bookings in general, really kills your ranking.
Right.
Because now that unit is off the market
for
in the eyes
months,
of Airbnb.
6 months or whatever.
Well, even a month.
Yeah.
Right. We'll do a month stays, and you'll see your ranking drop very quickly.
Right.
So some of these rankings are not good, but I'm okay with that because I know this is a midterm rental generally.
Yeah.
And then you can break it down and look into the longer stays, like monthly stays, and then you're like, oh, we're ranked in the top, 5 or whatever for monthly stays. And if that's my strategy for that unit, then that's fine.
Right.
That's where I want to be. But we'll look at, let me pull it back up here. So if you're listening, you're not seeing this, but I've picked a listing. I clicked on rankings. So I'm using RankBreeze as my ranking software. And it's probably the top one that you could use for doing this. And so the reason you want to use a ranking or a software that tells you your ranking is so you know how you're doing, right? If you have a business, you need to be able to measure your performance, right? You might know you're getting bookings, or more often people are not getting bookings. They don't know why. So then I'll go pull up their listing on RankBreeze and be like, well, you're on page 15.
Yeah.
Nobody's even seeing your listing.
Yeah.
So what can we do to make your listing more appealing to the Airbnb algorithm to get you into page 1 or 2 so that people are actually seeing it?
Yeah.
So that you have a chance of somebody booking, right? Because if you're in the top 10, you're going to get booked all the time. So you got to get there, and then you got to stay there. So I'll just pull the thing back up here, the RankBreeze. And so this one integrated with AirReview. So you get a whole bunch of information, right, about your impressions, your click-throughs. So this is like your funnel, if you're into that kind of thing, right? And it just kind of goes down the funnel. What's your conversion rate, your listing views, all that kind of stuff. What's your revenue? The revenue isn't always, I find, accurate. But your average daily rates, it shows you that as well, right? Your occupancy. So if you're doing direct bookings, obviously it's not going to be reflected in here because it can't pull that data from any website.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one of the downfalls. But here's the most important part, really, is I'm just going down to the ranking graph.
Well, your search rankings.
Yeah, our search rankings. So that would be within Airbnb. This is specific to Airbnb because there's not enough information and tools for Booking.com and VRBO.
Okay.
So you kind of use the Airbnb as a proxy. But we've got a bunch of different lines here, and if you look at the bottom, that corresponds to the guest count. So if I look at my ranking for one guest, it's pretty low. It's not great, but I don't care about that. That's not who I'm marketing to. I want, in this house, I want 4, 5, 6 guests, that kind of guest count, right? So you see my guest count for 2 is also low, and this is just natural. People looking for a 1-bedroom aren't going to book a 3-bedroom.
Yeah.
It's not. And if they do, they're not going to click on it. And if you're not getting clicked on, you're going to drop in the results. So for 3 guests, we're getting a little bit better, right? We're rank number 53. So page 3. Not bad. It's not great still, but 4 guests, we're getting better, right? So, and this, it changes all the time. But rank number 28, 25 on page 2.
So you're saying, so if somebody's searching for 2, 3, 4 guests, or 2, 3, 4 bedroom or whatever.
Well, when you're searching an Airbnb, you set your guest amount.
Yeah.
So I've got 5 people with me.
Okay.
And this is where it pulls that information from. So what I'm really after here is 6 guests and maybe 5.
Yeah.
So I can see that I've been, on page 1, rank 12 for 6 guests, and 5 guests is pretty well paralleling that. And it's dropping a little bit, and now it's come back up.
Yeah.
So this will tell you what your ranking is. It won't always tell you why. And then you'll see up here, you got weekly stays and monthly stays. And how do you rank for that? It doesn't always fill that in properly. But what you want to do is
information to know that your listing's not doing well. And now you know for sure it's not doing well. You just don't know why.
Yeah. So you can look at the monthly stays. We're not doing a ton of monthly stays here, but we're still on page 2 for 5 and 6 guests. So that's not bad. But what you can do, and lots of information. I'm not going to get into all of it.
You got to run a webinar on this stuff, man.
I have.
Okay.
Competitors, you can set up competitors to see what their rates are. And, looking at competitor rates, I'm feeling pretty good because they're higher than most of them. So I'm happy with that if I'm getting occupancy. And then you can do, last thing we'll talk about, optimization journal. So you can benchmark. So if your listing is not doing well, you make a change and then you wait probably 3 days for everything to catch up. Airbnb algorithm updates every 24 hours, and then you got like rank breezes another 24 hours. So you make a change, you wait a little bit, and then you see if that affects your ranking.
Right.
So here you can track a change. So you would add it. So here I've got just one for this listing. Price change January 4th, and then it gives me some results, right? Average rank up 11.2. So that was a good thing that I did. Yeah. Right. And then that could be anything. That could be, I updated the photos.
The picture,
yeah, whatever it is. So you want to make that change, one change at a time, and then see how that affects it. Right. Because people will get freaked out when they're not getting bookings, and they'll change a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And that didn't work, or it did work, but which thing worked?
And you don't know.
Which thing didn't work? You don't know. So you do one at a time, see what works. If it didn't work, you revert back to where you were. And then, but you can't do any of that without knowing what your rank is.
Right. So just having that benchmark to begin with. Yeah. This is all really, really good information. I think so people I've talked to about Airbnbs, like most people are just, hey, I'm considering Airbnb-ing out like a room in my house or a basement or another unit because, so for example, like, hey, it came vacant. I was renting to a long-term tenant, but now I'm going to do short-term stays. I just want to get into it. But after hearing all this, I think people are going to be scared away. It's a little bit, it's a bit much. Like, I think what people think about Airbnb is 10 years ago, you just buy a bunch of plates and cups and a couch and a bed and you stick it in there and then you go, right? Yeah. But you're really pointing to the fact that if you're going to do Airbnb, it's more or less, it's a business, it's a source of revenue, and you have customers, you have guests, and you need to kind of treat it like that. And if you want to make a go at it and do it something long term, then you kind of have to, keep these tools in mind that are available to you to streamline, like the cleaning, property management. So very good information. Well,
okay, let me just say, I know we're getting a little long in the tooth here, but 80 to 90% of people of Airbnb hosts do not do this.
Right.
So you can just list your thing and, if there's a lot of demand in the city, and this is what we did for a long time, right? We didn't do any of this stuff. We had good listings and there was a lot of demand where we were, so it worked out. It was fine. We were always booked, right? But now it's a little more, it's a lot more competitive, and you could still do that, and you could still work.
Yeah.
And you would have no idea why. But I would rather know.
But it might not work as good as you might think.
No, and if you really want to be like in the top
of
your
fix that camera again.
Yes, in the top of your class or whatever, if you really want to maximize the amount of money you're making, and this is
so if 80% of the people or 90% of the people aren't doing it, and you can pick up something from this podcast and you start doing it, you could be in the top 10%.
Yeah,
that's great.
And so for earnings and for occupancy, so like it all just translates into more money in your pocket. Right. And
which helps you make a better Airbnb and help more people.
Exactly. And for the cost, we're talking probably less than $50 a month.
Yeah.
For some of these tools for one listing.
Yeah.
So, to me, it's a no-brainer. It's a little bit more work initially, but once it's running, you could put it on autopilot. I'm in every day looking at stuff, adjusting stuff, but you could just put it on autopilot and check once a month, and 30% more revenue.
Sure, there's a ton more tools we could talk about, which we will talk about in the future.
Yes.
But hopefully people got a lot out of this episode, and you're going to have to watch it, I think, or at least check in some of these platforms.
Listen very intently.
Yeah. So until next time,
steward your wealth wisely.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Two Stewards Show. If you like my voice better, click subscribe.
And if you like my voice better, click share.
If you like both, give us a 5-star rating.
To interact with the show, feel free to reach out at hello@twostewards.ca.
We'll see you in the next episode. In the meantime, steward your wealth wisely.